we've had this announcement being made and this immediate fund that's going to be available to the Horn of Africa region. What dent does this make to the problem that that region is actually facing right now?
Well, as you pointed out, the Horn of Africa is experiencing a drought, with the epicenter centered on south-central Somalia, which is in fact experiencing famine. The rapid money that the World Bank has provided is intended to support livelihoods of people who are in the drought-affected areas, including in south-central Somalia, and also to deploy money out of risk contingency funds in projects that are already ongoing to help support them through the immediate period of need.
So there's a distinction to be made in terms of projects that are targeted for more immediate needs and then those for the long term. So let's hone in on those short-term recovery projects first. What exactly are the funds being directed to in that regard?
Well, there are many refugees coming across from Somalia into refugee camps both in Kenya and Ethiopia. Many of those people have traveled long distances through arduous conditions. They are starving, they've had very little water, they're in terrible shape. So part of the effort is to ensure that those people are received properly and get immediate life-saving attention. Similarly, there are lots of people in place, both in south-central Somalia and in parts of southern Ethiopia and northeastern Kenya, who also need immediate life-saving interventions. These interventions typically provide emergency food, water supplies, basic medications, and other assistance of that nature.
Are some of the challenges to getting that right and 100% successful?
There are absolutely many challenges. The drought is centered over south-central Somalia. Somalia has been in a situation of conflict for over 20 years. It's very, very hard, even for humanitarian agencies and NGOs that have been working in that part of the world for many years, to reach all of the affected people in those parts of the country. In addition, the people affected in southern Ethiopia and northeastern Kenya are quite widely dispersed. Small pockets of population, isolated at great distances from the main food and medicine distribution areas.
Let's take a look, because those are some of the challenges you face on the short term, but of course, we're looking at this money being deployed and hopefully those will be overcome sooner rather than later. When it comes to the longer term, drought resilience program, what exactly are you targeting there? Because this follows decades of recurring droughts in the Horn of Africa, and the question's got to be asked, what's going to be different this time around in actually being able to sustain that program, or ensuring the sustainability of that program moving forward?
That's a very good question. Climate models are all predicting that the Horn of Africa will experience a temperature rise of between 1 and 3.5 degrees Celsius over the coming decades. This means that droughts in the Horn of Africa will be both more frequent and more intense. It's very clear that a proper response over the medium to long term requires smart, drought-resistant agriculture and animal husbandry. In addition, we're going to need cross-border interventions to reduce drought-related risks. I think the current situation is a wake-up call. What we need to see is a program that addresses food security, poverty, and climate change together.
Funds are one thing. What's actually being done to support these economies, moving through this process and seeing that climate agenda being put at the top?
Well, a lot of work has been done by the World Bank and other development partners, together with the governments in the Horn countries, to ensure that there's higher preparedness for droughts like the current one. So both in Kenya and Ethiopia, for example, we help to establish early warning systems and drought management institutions, which have in fact kicked into gear in light of the current circumstances and have made the drought's impacts much less severe than they would have been if those things had not already existed. In addition, again, both in Kenya and Ethiopia, there are social protection programs that provide a safety net to the people living in arid areas who are most susceptible to the impact of drought. So it's been possible for both governments to increase the cash transfer to some of the neediest populations in their countries.
Mm-hmm. Let's take a look at your operation in Djibouti specifically, and if you could outline for us what exactly is happening there, because that has had a little less prominence than some of your other projects in some of the other major economies.
Yeah, in all of the countries in the Horn, what we're trying to do is ensure that agriculture is climate resistant, that water scarce areas in the country enhance their water security over time, and also that social safety nets that provide a security to the poorest populations in the country are working as well as they possibly can.